Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. Today we're going to take a look at a Guardian GoBot. This is Flip Top. Now Flip Top was one that was released in 1985. He would also briefly be available in 1986 before the toy line would be discontinued. Flip Top is a relatively minor character in the overall hierarchy of the GoBots, but frequently when he was used in the animated series, he'd be used to battle other flying GoBots, such as Coptor and most famously Waterwalk, in a rather lengthy episode chase. Although Flip Top is noted for having a commercial relatively dedicated to him, but it was also primarily to show off that they were reissuing Leader 1 in new colors. At any rate, let's take a look here at Flip Top and take a look at some of his articulation. And he has a fairly good amount of articulation for a toy his size. His arms can be raised up all the way up against his head. The arms do rotate here at the bicep. Remove the rotor to get it out of the way. And since the arm is at a ball joint at the elbow, he can move his arm inward like so. As for his legs, he can spread his legs at the hip about so far, and they can be moved back and forth like so very easily. So Flip Top does have an impressive range of motion for such a small GoBot. Of course, right now would be a good time to take a look at his loose accessory since he knocked it off. It is this large rotor blade. Well, it's actually quite small in comparison to some of the other toy rotor blades. As you can see, it also has little bits protruding out from one side of each blade. It does spin pretty good, but one thing to take note of it is that it is very, very thin plastic. So you will have to be careful with it. And as is custom with all of these, they do tend to warp and bend with time and storage. He's one that I definitely would recommend you keep in a GoBot's case or in some other case where he can't move around too much, so that way the blade doesn't get damaged. Just snaps back into place there behind his head. Now we're going to convert him into his alternate mode. To do that, first we're going to take this blue section here on his back that the rotor is attached to. Just pop it loose and rotate it all the way around onto his chest. His arms we're going to fold up at the elbow and at the shoulder like so, so they meet up at the front, and then slide them flush against the body. Then his legs, we will fold the feet together, connect the legs together, and then push them in at the hip. And there we have him in his alternate mode. He's a Cayman SH-2 Sea Sprite helicopter. The same alternate mode that is shared by the Decepticon Transformer called Vortex. But of course, Flip Top here is a little more realistic, as he doesn't have the notch here in the front to hold Vortex's gun. And of course, Flip Top also has markings on here, marking him as a helicopter in service to the United States Navy. Now, supposedly, the original Japanese Machine Robo toy had more stickers on him than the American released one here for the GoBots. So that's kind of a disappointment that Tonka would have more of the stickers taken off of this, as this would have definitely made a nice little military recruitment tool by having more and more of them still retain some of their stickers to identify them as part of our armed forces. Of course, some things to watch out for on this toy is, again, we got the back rotor here. As you can tell, it's very, very small. Thankfully, it's not like Coptor's and removable, but it is also very thin plastic, so it will break very easily. And then, of course, a lot of it also boils down to the silver paint that's on the windscreen and here holding the front landing gear. It does tend to scratch up very easily. But then again, so does some of the blue here in the midsection, as you can see right here and right here. That some of the paint is chipped off, but that's, of course, the body section right here. This part is metal. All the rest of it is plastic. You got some solid metal right here in the middle. Of course, that's usually, in most of our cases, a sign of having been on numerous adventures as a child. And this one was indeed mine growing up as a child. And as you can imagine, Flip Top went on numerous adventures when I could get away with him. Any rate, my thoughts on Flip Top. I've always been a fan of Flip Top. I've loved the alternate mode, although the blue color does look a little unrealistic. I still like it, and I've still always liked him. It's a shame, though, that Flip Top really didn't get a lot of characterization in the animated series. But, of course, that's always been the biggest fault of the GoBot series. So it's hard to really judge them when, in a lot of ways, Tonka really didn't put the effort behind it to make more out of these guys. But when you factor in that he does have a very nice alternate mode, and there is some good solid metal in his body, so he'll be able to take some punishment. This is definitely a top tier toy, but again, he's down near the bottom of the top tier, since he is somewhat on the fragile side. But then again, just about every toy helicopter from the 1980s was always a bit on the fragile side. All you gotta do is look at some of my reviews on some of the Transformer helicopters, or listen to some reviewers of G.I. Joe toys. The numerous helicopters that they had were also notoriously fragile. So, helicopters may not have been the best things to give us, but let's face it, many of us growing up probably did see a lot of helicopters flying overhead. But at any rate, I'm still going to give this one in as a top tier rating. He's always been one of my favorites, and I'm hoping that if they do eventually make a GoBot revival, Flip Top here will get some of the characterization he deserves. And that concludes my review of the Guardian GoBot Flip Top. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this video, leave me a thumbs up here on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button and join up in our ranks. Don't forget to ring the bell so you'll be notified of all future content. Also, please share your thoughts of Flip Top in the comments down below. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.